Every prepper you've ever watched online has the same fantasy. The grid goes down, they grab the bag, they run. That's the plan. That's always been the plan. It's the wrong plan. Picture two civilizations, both brutal, both built to survive collapse. One moves, one stays. The one that moves, you've been told to copy your entire life. The one that stays? That's the one that built a world that lasted 1,000 years. The Mongols get all the glory. Fast horses, lightning raids, Genghis, the whole mythology. But here's what nobody asks. What happened to the Mongols when there was nowhere left to run? The Vikings never had that problem because they never needed to run anywhere. They built something the Mongols never could, something no nomad ever can. A home that could eat a winter and still have food in the spring. The overwintering mandate versus the nomadic run. You've been sold a lie dressed up as tactics. Bug out, get out of Dodge, 72-hour kit. The whole modern prepper gospel is movement. Know where that theology comes from? Nomadic pastoralism, the Mongol model. Keep the herd alive by moving it. Never commit to a single piece of ground. Speed is survival. Works beautifully until it doesn't. The moment the herd has nowhere to go, the model collapses. No pasture, no food, no tribe, no survival. The Vikings solved a harder problem. Scandinavia doesn't give you the option of running. 6 months of winter, temperatures that will kill a man in hours, daylight that disappears. The land itself becomes hostile every single year like clockwork, no matter what. The Viking answer wasn't to outrun the winter. The Viking answer was to build something winter couldn't kill. The longhouse wasn't just shelter, it was a fortress, a pantry, a forge, a barn, and a community center, all under one roof, all on one piece of ground, all fortified against whatever came next. Modern bug-out culture is Mongol cosplay. You're packing a horse you don't have. Real survivability, the kind that gets measured in years instead of days, looks a lot more like a longhouse than a backpack. The longhouse pantry. Salt was currency. That's not a metaphor. In the Viking Age, salt was so expensive and so scarce that regular Norse homesteads couldn't rely on it to preserve food. The preppers who stockpile salt right now are one supply chain disruption away from watching everything they're counting on rot. The Vikings couldn't afford that weakness, so they engineered their way around it. Lacto fermentation. The process doesn't need refrigeration, doesn't need electricity, doesn't need salt in bulk. It needs a vessel, a culture, and time. Skyr, the Viking fermented dairy, kept protein available through the dead of winter. Fermented fish filled the caloric gap when hunting was impossible. Fermented vegetables held vitamins that scurvy would have otherwise stolen. Your modern refrigerator is a single power outage from being a very expensive box full of death. A ceramic crock of fermenting cabbage will outlast the grid by years. Then there's stockfish. This one rewrites everything you think you know about long-term food storage. Viking fishermen would catch cod and hang it in the freezing Nordic air. No salt, no smoke, no processing. The cold and the wind dehydrated it until the moisture content dropped so low that bacteria couldn't touch it. The result? A piece of protein that could sit on a shelf for up to a decade. No refrigeration, no electricity, no infrastructure at all. 10 years of food security from cold air and a drying rack. Compare that to freeze-dried pouches with a 25-year marketing claim that depend on sealed packaging you can't replicate once it's opened. For meat, the Vikings went underground, literally. Peat bogs are naturally anaerobic, no oxygen, naturally acidic, the conditions that destroy bacteria and preserve organic material for centuries. Viking homesteaders buried meat in bogs and pulled it out months later, still edible. They called it fermented burial. Modern science calls it controlled anaerobic preservation. Call it what you want. It works when the power is gone and the salt is gone and everything your prepper plan counted on has already failed. The gnar. The Mongols had the horse, fast, mobile, terrifying in open terrain. A horse can carry maybe 200 pounds, needs water every day, needs pasture, gets sick, gets stolen, breaks a leg on bad ground and becomes a liability. The Viking had the Gnar. Most people have never heard of it. That's a mistake. The Gnar was a cargo vessel, stocky, deep-hulled, built for tonnage rather than speed. A single Gnar could move up to 24 tons of cargo. Your $60,000 bug-out truck carries a ton and a half and turns into a metal brick the moment the gas stations go dark. The Gnar moved 24 tons on wind and water, two things that have never gone on backorder. Here's what makes it untouchable. The Gnar had a shallow draft, deep enough to cross the open Atlantic. The Vikings reached North America 500 years before Columbus and won. Shallow enough to push up a river barely deeper than a bathtub. The same vessel that crossed oceans could disappear up a river no one else could follow. That's not a bug-out vehicle, that's a civilization on the move. Bog iron and the decentralized supply chain. This might be the most dangerous idea in this entire video. Modern supply chains are the single greatest vulnerability in any collapse scenario. Tools, nails, fasteners, blades, every critical piece of hardware you depend on right now originates in a factory, in a country, on a ship, through a port, through a warehouse, to a store. Pull one link, the whole chain stops. The Viking homestead had no chain. Bog iron is exactly what it sounds like. Iron deposits that form naturally in swamps and peat bogs as iron-rich groundwater oxidizes at the surface. You can harvest it by hand. It looks like rust-colored gravel. It's low-grade ore by modern industrial standards. By survival standards, it's a forge of possibility. Viking communities built clay shaft furnaces, small, simple, portable, and smelted bog iron directly on their property. The process produced workable iron for tools, weapons, nails, agricultural implements. No mining industry, no smelting conglomerate, no supply chain with 17 dependencies. A swamp, a clay furnace, charcoal, and knowledge. Every Viking longhouse was also a micro-manufacturing plant. Warp-weighted looms turned raw fiber into textiles without factory infrastructure. Woodworking produced everything from furniture to structural beams to ship components. The forge produced metal goods on demand. The homestead wasn't just self-sufficient in food, it was self-sufficient in production. That's the concept almost no modern prepper community has truly internalized. Stockpiling is not self-sufficiency. Stockpiling is just delayed dependency. You're still dependent on the supply chain that filled your shelves. You've just added a buffer. Real Viking model resilience isn't a bigger pantry. It's the capacity to make what you need from what's around you indefinitely. The Viking Protocol. Here's the translation. Here's what you actually do with this. First, audit your food preservation strategy for electrical dependency. Every freezer, every refrigerator, every vacuum sealer, those are failure points. Replace at least 30% of your food security with fermentation and cold air dehydration. Skyr cultures are available. Fermentation crocks are cheap. Stockfish technique requires nothing but fish in cold air. Second, stop romanticizing the bag. The 72-hour kit, the bug-out bag, the get-home bag. These are tools for specific short-duration scenarios. They are not a long-term survival philosophy. Build the homestead first. The bag is your emergency backup, not your primary strategy. Third, think in tonnage, not speed. Whatever your bug-out vehicle is, the more important metric isn't how fast it moves, it's how much it can carry and how far it can reach without fuel infrastructure. Water routes, river access, coastal positioning, these are force multipliers that compound over months and years of grid downtime. Fourth, decentralize your manufacturing. Learn one production skill beyond food. Blacksmithing, textile production, woodworking, leatherwork. Pick one and build actual capability, not just theoretical knowledge.
The Viking homestead's true advantage wasn't any single skill, it was the combination of redundant production capabilities concentrated in one location. Fifth, build community with production value. The longhouse model was never individual, it was a coordinated, small-scale economy with defined complementary roles. A prepper community where everyone has the same skills and the same gear is fragile. A community where one person ferments, one person forges, one person builds, one person navigates, that's a Viking model. That's something winter can't kill. The Viking model is how you build something winter can't kill, something collapse can't kill. But there will come a moment when the longhouse isn't an option, when you're forced off your ground and everything goes mobile. That's when you need a completely different playbook. The Mongols perfected survival on the run for 300 years. How they did it and what modern preppers can actually steal from it, that's already on your screen. Click it. I'll see you there.